All right, here's what I need to do. I need to welcome you to the Young Turks. I am your host, Cenk Uygur. Dave Kohler producing today. I'm still jealous of JR in Miami, and he hasn't even called. Has he called you, Jesus? Oh, no, too busy partying. Okay. Don't have time for your old friends back in poor L.A. All right. So, anyway, we got a fun show for you ahead, of course. There's a very emotional story about a panda later in this program. I'm warning you about the story about the panda. God damn it if we don't do a fun show. All right, and I'm going to tell Anna a story that she's going to love. The result of that story in the third hour will be na, na, na. So you have that to look forward to. All right, and of course, there's major issues today. We're going to talk about what to do with the terror suspects. Of course, conservatives have made more outrageous comments. And then really what's Obama's actual tactic in healthcare reform, among other things? Because right now there's a little bit of an internal battle in the Democratic Party. Some of that is good, some of it is bad. All right, so we'll get to all that in our lovely 3-hour show here. But I want to start just totally random. Now, Democrats have been fighting each other a little bit back and forth, the House and the Senate, and later in the program I'm going to tell you about progressive Democrats taking the fight to the Obama administration. Uh-oh, that sounds fun, right? Even senators. Wow. Okay, so that's going to be good. But nothing beats Republicans fighting with one another. And that's the first story. So we have a race out here for a Senate seat in California. And Republicans have a primary. Carly Fiorina is running against Tom Campbell. And when Republicans fight against each other, when there's no Democrat in the race, well, that's just vicious on vicious, right? So nobody's pulling any punches. Nobody's coming to a gunfight with a knife. They're coming in with Uzis. So Carly Fiorina is going to hit first here. And this has been described as one of the weirdest political ads ever made. It has also been described as psychedelic, and you will see why. It's rather long and awesome in how much it amused me. And if this is what the Republicans are going to do to one another, sit back, relax, enjoy the show, grab some popcorn. Go.
Purity, piety, our fiscal conservative leaders, men we admire, aspire to be. Wholesome, honorable, true believers. Men like Tom Campbell, who would never lead us astray, his pedestal so high.
Leaving but one way to fall. Tom Campbell, fiscal genius. Who would remember that as the governor's chief budget officer, Campbell was the architect of our disastrous 2005 budget? A budget so bloated with increased ongoing spending commitments and borrowing that it literally set the stage for the recent decline of California. That's fiscally conservative, Tom? Who would remember that was the Tom Campbell budget? We would. A budget about which the respected nonpartisan California Legislative Analyst Office wrote, multi-billion-dollar operating deficits will persist, even in the best of times. And Tom, while proclaiming your newfound fiscal conservatism, you seem to have forgotten that you supported last year's budget, saying its tax increases were the right thing to do. Your current brilliant solution to California's budget mess is to raise our gas tax, already the highest in the country, by 32 cents a gallon. Could there be a worse solution? Is that fiscally conservative, Tom? And sadly, we're just getting started. You also campaigned for a ballot measure last spring that would have extended a supposedly temporary hike in the sales tax, the income tax, and the vehicle license fees for another 2 years. At the end of the day, that's another $16 billion in new taxes you supported, Tom. When in Congress, you supported a tax on the internet, and you were publicly critical of the Bush tax cuts. I suppose we should not be surprised then, Tom, that you are the only Republican candidate to refuse to sign the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, no matter what office you were running for that particular week. Tom Campbell, is he what he tells us? Or is he what he's become over the years?
What is that?
A FCINO, fiscal conservative in name only. A wolf in sheep's clothing. A man who literally helped put the state of California on the path to bankruptcy and higher taxes. Fiscal conservative? Or just another same old tale of tax and spend, authored by a career politician who helped guide us into this fiscal mess in the first place? Might there be a better choice? Someone who has not made a career of politics, a political outsider, perhaps a proven fiscal conservative, who has accomplished enormous things in life. Now that sounds like the right choice for California.
That was awesome. First, I didn't even know what the sheep were about. Like in the beginning, I couldn't tell if the sheep were the good guys or the bad guys. And it gets put up on a pedestal and what we aspire to be. I don't aspire to be a sheep. What the hell is that? And then it turns out he's not even a sheep. He's that weird psychedelic creature at the end. What was that, man? How did they put that commercial together? They can't be serious about that ad. You can't be serious. What was that? The dude crawling around in the sheep thing with the laser eyes? How did Carly Fiorina look at that ad and go, nailed it? Man, you got to question her judgment just on that. Now, the flip side is, did it work? I'll tell you what, everybody's talking about whether Tom Campbell's a fiscal conservative. But they're also talking about whether Carly Fiorina is sane or insane, right? Notice she was shown at the end of the ad, but you didn't get the usual, I approve this ad, because who in their right mind could? So, I mean, she caught people's attention. Of course, former head of Hewlett-Packard. You know, she's a businesswoman, she touts herself as. And then, ironically, at the end of the ad, I thought, well, I guess I like Tom Campbell a little bit better now. He seems like he's not as unreasonable as the other Republicans, if you believe this ad, right? So, did it work? Did it not work? I think in the end, it's just far too crazy. And it makes you a laughingstock. So no matter, even if you think well, one, I've captured people's attention. Two, I've done some serious damage to Tom Campbell in your own mind, you know, and among your conservative base. But it's not worth looking so damn ridiculous for. How the hell do you put that ad together? And who did you hire to put in that sheep outfit with the laser eyes? Crazy, man. Oh, go have at it, Hoss. Have at it. Republicans, tear each other apart. You know what, Tom? You got to hit her back now. Get in a cow outfit or something and have the eyes actually shoot out the laser beams, or sharks with laser beams on their heads. Think about it. All right, so that's the California Senate race, and that promises only to get more and more fun. So now we go to other Republican wars. Guess who's at war with one another? Kind of, a little bit. Sarah Palin and Rush Limbaugh. Huh, don't it? Now, why? Well, you know, Sarah Palin made an enormous stink out of Rahm Emanuel's calling certain liberal activist groups effing retarded. And she says that's the R word, it's as bad as the N word, and should never be used. Well, funny enough, there's someone else who used it. It was Rush Limbaugh on yesterday's program. And he wasn't nearly as polite as Rahm Emanuel. I got the quote for you. Rush says, quote, "Our political correct society is acting like some giant insults taking place by calling a bunch of people who are retards, retards." Wow. And then he said that Rahm Emanuel got all these groups together to apologize to them, you know, Special Olympics and other people with disabilities, etc. And he called that the retard summit at the White House. Okay, now, if you come after Rahm Emanuel for saying retarded, you got to go nuclear on Rush for these comments. They're a million times worse, right? And I'd like to note for the record, I think that there is a significant difference between retarded and retard. If you if you see a kid who's got, mental challenges, let's put it that way, right, in school, and some other ass comes over and goes, hey, you retard, I'm going to kick that kid's ass, man. Because, to do that to somebody is terrible, if you ask me, right? On the other hand, if somebody makes a joke about something that is not related to kids that are not, that don't have those issues, and it's just calling someone stupid and says retarded, I have almost no issue with that, right? You got to be able to understand the difference, right? Now, Rush, in this case, is not calling a specific person retard, but he's coming damn close. He's saying it's a retard summit, okay? And he says, oh, I got to call a retard a retard. So Sarah Palin, I'm sure, unleashed, because remember, she said about Rahm Emanuel that he was hurting God's children and that he should be fired immediately. All right, so Palin does launch one cruise missile, but it's just one sentence through her spokesperson. It says, Governor Palin believes crude and demeaning name-calling at the expense of others is disrespectful. All right, look, it's something, right? She had to say something. On the other hand, she hasn't called for him to get fired. She hasn't said he's hurt God's children. That he said, these are all things she said about Rahm Emanuel, that he said as an offensive a word as there can be, and that it just disrupts civil society altogether, etc. So it's to be interesting to see Rush Limbaugh's reaction to his beloved Sarah Palin. And I don't know if Rush is still on the stuff, you know what I'm saying? But to make that kind of comment, knowing that you're definitely, at the very least, going to get under Sarah Palin's skin, which, he claims that he loves and adores, it's a curious choice. But all right, hey, Rush wants to grab attention, wants to grab some headlines. Mission accomplished. You did that. Probably not in the best way, but I would love to see that fight get uglier. So put some thought behind it, Rush. You know what? She got in your face. You're going to let her get away with that, Rush? Come on, man. Getting on you for just saying there's a retard summit. Come on, hit her again. Hit her again, Rush. Let's have some fun. Let's go. Think about it. All right. So now we go from one set of crazy conservatives, of course, to another. And when we go to crazy conservatives, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Everybody knows it. Glenn Beck. I just feel so bad for O'Reilly and Hannity. They've been so outshined. When's the last time we did a Hannity clip, Like, yeah, he'll have a guest on, but when's the last time he went nuts, O'Reilly, he seems tame. Like, he almost seems sane in comparison. Glenn Beck, he's at this every single day. So, Beck has decided that he's going to take on Barack Obama's name and declare that it is un-American. Curious choice. And Beck always says he can't understand why people would say that he's racially insensitive. Gee, I wonder why. Well, let's listen in on Glenn Beck's explanation of Obama's name and then see if we can put it together.
He changes his name from Barry because he's trying to fit in as Barry. Then he meets Frank Marshall Davis. He then changes his name to Barack. Why? To make a statement and to fit in. Think. You change your name to from Barry. You want to fit in. You decide, no, I want to be somebody different. You change your name and then again play the audio of what he did after he changed his name.
I chose my friends carefully. The more politically active black students, the foreign students, the Chicanos, the Marxist professors and structural feminists and punk rock performance poets. We smoked cigarettes and wore leather jackets. At night in the dorms we discussed neocolonialism, Frantz Fanon, Eurocentrism, and patriarchy.
Stop.
Is that mainstream stuff?
That's not.
No.
That is a guy named Barack.
Yeah.
Hey, Barack! Not Barry. Hey, Barry, come here. Let's talk about neocolonialism. No.
How about structural feminism, then?
Barack! Neocolonialism. It takes on a whole different light. So he goes in, he seeks these people out. as Barack, not Barry. He seeks them out. He creates a new identity for himself. You know what? This sounds ridiculous, but I don't believe it is. Maybe it is. He chose to use his name Barack for a reason, to identify not with America. You don't take the name Barack to identify with America. You take the name Barack to identify with what? Your heritage? The heritage maybe of your father in Kenya, who is a radical? Is it really? Searching for something to give him any kind of meaning, just as he was searching later in life for religion.
All right, there you have it. First, just real quick, the whole dismissiveness of education was fantastic in there. You know, studying neocolonialism, yeah, right? Trying to get an education. You know, Glenn Beck never went to college. I don't know if I don't hold that against him, but maybe he's bitter about it. He's got a chip on his shoulder, whatever it is. Yes, you study different interesting things in college. I know, that's crazy. Don't do it. All right, now on to the main event here. So apparently the name Barack is more un-American because what? Anglicized names are more American. I mean, like, you know, I get tired of this. I mean, don't they miss the whole point of the country over and over again. Anybody can be an American, but to them, that's not how they see it. They see it as if you're white or anglicized, then you're a real American. But if you got these funny names, you're obviously not a real American. Or maybe you're, I don't know, 91% American, 72% American, but not a real American like Glenn Beck. That's a very American name. And what was the thing about the Kenyan father? You know, and then he's got a Kenyan father. Obviously radical. Why? Because he's from Kenya? I fail to see the connection at all. And, of course, he's wrong about Obama wanting to take on a new identity. He said that he had matured and didn't feel like he needed to change his identity as he thought before when he was more insecure when he was younger. He felt like before, well, I want to fit in, so why don't I try Barry, right? And then when he came to Columbia, he had matured. I'll give you an exact quote from Obama. He said, it was not some assertion of my African roots, not a racial assertion. It was much more of an assertion that I was coming of age, an assertion of being comfortable with the fact that I was different and that I didn't need to try to fit in a certain way. Because his real name is Barack Obama. And if that bothers Glenn Beck, for all of us who have strange names, Glenn, who you think are un-American, it doesn't bother us. And it certainly bothers us that you think we're not as American as you are because your name is Glenn Beck. I mean, look, it only bothers me to the degree that this idiot is allowed to, you know, speak on air to all these people as if he's a credible source. Any madman can speak on a street corner, but they're giving this guy an enormous platform. All right, so anyway, Glenn, my bad. You should discount everything I'm saying, of course, because my name is Cenk Uygur. What is that? It's not American. That sounds radical. What should I change it to? Jack Johnson? Jake Smith. Oh, that's American. Oh, that's so good. This guy's an idiot. And he wonders why we think, hey, perhaps you're not understanding why people might think that you judge based on race and identity in this country. You still don't get it? Yeah. What are we going to do? Help this guy? There's no helping him. Young Turks.
I've got you sussed.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Now, let me give you what I find to be the most interesting news story of the day. Wall Street Journal has another interesting article. This time it's about John Boehner and the Republicans' outreach to Wall Street. Now, that seems to be a curious time to reach out to Wall Street, but for the Republicans, it's not. It's very logical. This is the time to cash in. And John Boehner has gotten himself in a little bit of trouble here by being very explicit about that. In the article, in fact, let me quote the article for you. Mr. Boehner told Mr. Diamond, the head of J.P. Morgan, congressional Republicans had stood up to Mr. Obama's efforts to curb pay and impose new regulations. Boehner is saying, look, we were on your side. We tried to make sure you got all your pay on Wall Street and that you had no new regulations to deal with. And then he continues, the Republican leader also said he was disappointed many on Wall Street continued to donate money to Democrats, according to people familiar with the matter. That's the Wall Street Journal on that issue. Now, Eric Cantor is also quoted here. He's, of course, the second-ranking House Republican and the top Wall Street fundraiser for his party. And he said, quote, I sense a lot of dissatisfaction and a lot of buyer's remorse on Wall Street, referring to how Wall Street gave more money to Democrats in the last election cycle. And he's saying, see, now they're trying to hold you accountable. And you know you can always count on the Republican Party to never hold you accountable, to make sure we got your back. And look, Boehner and Cantor's requests are perfectly legitimate. If you're a Wall Street banker and you want to protect your pay and you want to be able to take as much risk as you like and you want to get bailed out by the taxpayer, well, the Republican Party is definitely your party. Remember, Bush is the one that did the bailout. The guy who was the architect of the whole bailout was Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary for Bush. And he's the former Goldman Sachs CEO that funneled all the money to Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and all those companies. So if you're a Wall Street banker, you got to love the Republicans. They're your boys. I'm surprised they donated it all to the Democrats, but they do. And to be fair, in 2008, Wall Street executives, more specifically, securities and investment industry executives, gave Obama $15 million, and they only gave McCain $8.7 million. I think a lot of them were in the same place we all were. Enough. The Republicans are destroying the economy, even if it means we're going to, get a little tighter regulation from the Democrats, etc. Well, better that that happens than these Republicans drive us off a cliff. Now, having said that, now the Democrats are in charge. Even their tiny little bit of regulation, which isn't very much at all, is apparently way too much for Wall Street. It's under their skin. So now, again, the Wall Street Journal reporting that through the third quarter, campaign finance reports show that some major Wall Street players have begun to increase their share of donations to the Republican Party, including Bank of America, which used to give a little bit more to the Democrats, is now giving a little bit more to the Republicans, and on and on it goes. And Senator Phil Gramm is also quoted. He's the main architect of that Republicans making sure to sell out to the bankers to collect their paychecks, and then going to work for the bankers once he retires, which is exactly what he did. And we've told you on the show before about how his wife got rich off of that. He got rich off of that. The companies he advocated for through the deregulation wound up actually losing billions of dollars. But it didn't really matter to the Grahams because they collected their paychecks and went home. In fact, Phil Gramm is still with the investment firm of UBS Securities, LLC, and he's still collecting paychecks for driving companies into the ground and deregulating, etc. So the Republican Party is back in advertising and saying, hey, Wall Street, we're on your side. Now, that's a great development if you're a Democrat, because that's terrible politics. But, of course, the Democratic Party never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So, Democrats are in the press today saying, not all of them, but some of them saying, no, we can serve Wall Street even better than the Republicans. What are you doing? Well, that's the problem. They're right. They're both competing over who can pleasure Wall Street more. So here's Henry Waxman, who I like in other instances, but he said, one, he makes a case, and Huffington posted these interviews during the bailout debate, that he called Diamond personally, and that Diamond, the head of JP Morgan, quote, impressed upon me how much he needed. So Waxman is basically saying, well, I could one-up Boehner. I called Diamond and asked him, "What? I got a blank check. How much you want me to put on it during the bailout?" That's disastrous. Why did you admit that? Well, I'm glad you admitted it, because if that's what you're doing, that's terrible. And he said, we also did the stimulus that wound up helping Wall Street. Frank Lautenberg, a Democrat of New Jersey, says that when asked if is it politically perilous to be seen on the side of Wall Street, he says, I don't think so. I think that unless there's some really egregious behavior, I think that they should support us, and I think we should be willing to accept their help. In other words, we're open for business. Give us the money. Don't give it to the Republicans. And who cares if we look like we're serving your interests? We all serve your interests. I mean, this is brazen. This is the politicians on both sides saying, we don't give a damn what you think, the American people. Look, you got to understand the way we win elections is by collecting campaign money from rich donors. And Wall Street's got a lot of rich donors. We're open for business, and we're having an auction here to see who's going to be the highest bidder. And if they give us more money, we'll sell it to them. If they give them more money, we'll sell it. The reality is, both sides are going to get money. Bank of America used to give 56% to Democrats. Now they're giving 54% to the Republicans, or vice versa, right? They're giving to both sides, and that's why both sides are giving them whatever the hell they want. Guess who's not getting anything out of this deal? Yeah, you guessed it, me and you, American taxpayer. They're not open to business for us. It goes on and on. Representative Mel Watt, Democrat of North Carolina, chairman of the Financial Services Subcommittee, might be rather relevant, told Huffington Post there's, quote, no Republican or Democrat slant to Wall Street issues. You're 100% right, Mel. You're both giving into them. You know, you see this stuff, and it gives you almost no hope. Now, I'll be a little fair by quoting Barney Frank, who's, you know, been fighting for financial reform. In some of those regulations, in my opinion, are far too weak, but at least he's doing something, and at least he's smart enough to realize that Boehner made a huge mistake, and the Democrats should be happy about that, and not going to the press and telling them, oh, yeah, we'll do even better. He said about Boehner's comments, can I help him say that? Can I buy him some national TV time to say that? I'm surprised that John thinks that's a good message, but he's free to make it. Frankly, I'm glad that he's being that honest. Yeah, you're right. Well, but you should check your fellow congressmen and senators. Here's a trick that the Democrats do in the Banking Committee. Obviously, most important committee in this regard in the House. They stack it with a lot of the Democrats who are in close races. Now, what's the implication of that? Well, those people in close races are in districts that are more conservative, supposedly, right? And in a lot of cases, yes, they are more conservative. Their districts are. And since they're in tight races, they're going to need more money. So they put them on the Banking Committee. They put 15 of them in. So the Banking Committee no longer is progressive. Even though it's controlled by Democrats, it's now conservative. Because those 15 wind up voting with the banks. Why? One, they can go back home and go, oh, see, I'm conservative. I voted with the banks, which is so crazy. But nobody challenges them on that. But number two, they go back to the banks and go, hey, look, this is the most important committee, and I sold that to you big time. Where's my paycheck? So that way, guess what? No strong financial reform coming out of the Banking Committee because the Republicans and the conservative Democrats working hand in hand, and Democratic leadership putting those Democrats in that committee to be able to do just that. And in the end, of course, they continue to have no regulation. They're going to run amok again, and it's going to blow up on us. And then they're going to go back and talk to Jamie Dimon and go, see, didn't we deliver? We gave you all the money. We took the American taxpayer money and gave it to you. Why don't you donate back a little bit to us? And understand that final point, how outrageous it is. We give these companies billions of dollars in tax breaks, right? That's one side of it. Obama's now challenging that. Then we give them billions in TARP money. Then we give them billions in backdoor bailouts through AIG. And then we give them nearly trillions in easy money. Okay, that's where they can borrow at lower interest rates than you and I can, and they make money off of that. We give them all of this, and then they turn around and use that money, even just a tiny, tiny percentage of it, to buy our politicians. And they think, man, this is too easy. You just gave me all this money, and I took, 0.001%, and I easily bought all your politicians. Now, why do we allow that? Why do we allow a system where the politicians are obviously bought by the highest bidders? In the end, it always comes back to the same thing. We have to do campaign finance reform. If the American taxpayer paid for the campaigns of these politicians instead of having the lobbyists pay for their campaigns, people will say, oh, that's too much money. We would save 100 times that money, 1,000 times that money in the money that they funnel back to those guys. At least then our politicians would be working for us. This system we have now is fundamentally broken. Unless we change how these politicians get funded, we will lose on every issue. It's a joke, and the joke's being played on us, and there's no hope until we change that fundamental structure. There isn't. You're going to lose on every issue. And I'll tell you, and I'll give you okay, look. 3 perfect examples of it. I'll do it quickly, and then we'll come back and talk about it more later. 1, Obama just said the Senate is going to drop the carbon cap. The cap and trade, Oil companies weren't going to let you do cap and trade. You thought they were going to do cap and trade? Industry that's affected by cap and trade, the energy guys, they're going to let you do cap and trade? Hell no. They said, bow your head. And Republicans and Democrats all bowed their head. Cap and trade, gone. Who wins? Oh, will you look at that? Corporate America wins. The lobbyists win. I didn't see that coming. All right, then let's go to financial reform. Chris Dodd came out and said in the New York Times that Obama's new tougher regulations are unacceptable, that they're too tough, and that they will actually hurt reform. Yeah, okay, I love how they twist logic on its head. How are they going to hurt reform, Chris? Well, they're going to hurt reform because we were so close to selling out. We had a bipartisan deal with the Republicans to give Wall Street nearly what they wanted, almost all of what they wanted. And Obama's coming in here gumming up the works by asking us to get tougher on the banks. So it'll slow down reform. It's adding to the problems of trying to get a bill done. And we were getting precariously close to getting it done. And I don't want to be in a position where we end up doing nothing because we tried to do too much. No, Chris, don't try to do too much. Remember, his office sent me a letter like 2 days ago saying, you have misjudged Chris Dodd. Chris Dodd is a servant of the people. He wants stronger reform and the Volcker rule and all of Obama's new proposals, and he will fight to his dying breath for them. Until, of course, a day later, when he tells the New York Times, those reforms, they're a little too tough. I'm not interested at all, and if you try to get me to do them, I'll do nothing instead. Chris Dodd's about to retire, and he's going to get serious money from Wall Street. Look, that's the other part of the problem. One is they finance elections. The second problem is once these guys retire, their chief of staff, their staffers, and then the senators and congressmen themselves, well, then they go get enormous paying jobs with the same corporations and lobbyist groups, etc. So they have all the financial incentive in the world to do their bidding and to screw us over. There's stories in today's news about CIA officers that are working for corporate America, okay, while being CIA officers. Former generals going and consulting the Defense Department, getting paid very handsomely to do it, while also working for defense contract companies, okay? So, of course, their advice to the Defense Department is, oh, yeah, you're definitely going to want to buy that really, really expensive project from my company. Shocking how that advice works. This whole thing is geared to screw us. I'll give you one last one. Oh, you know what? And we're going to have a guest on about it right now. So you say, wait a minute, Cenk. There are some issues, though, that we are making progress on, like don't ask, don't tell. It looks like finally we're going to go in that direction. Why? Think about it. Okay, this is critical. Because don't ask, don't tell doesn't affect any company. There's no multinational corporation interest involved. It's a social issue. So, and then the Republicans will cry, the conservatives will cry and say, oh no, the Republicans never do what we tell them to do on social issues. Yeah, because they don't really care about that. Okay? What the Republicans and Democrats will always do is deliver for corporate America and lobbyists. But on the don't ask, don't tell issue, gays, not gays, who's making money? I don't know. Who cares? Yeah, sure, we'll be great. Yeah, you win. You win on don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, congratulations. Enjoy the win. See, I'm giving you a guide to figuring out the matrix of politics, okay? Look to see where the money is, and that's where the politicians will vote. If there isn't strong money interest, well, then it's a toss-up. Then they can go ahead and have their fun little debates, and eventually it'll go one way or another. But they don't really care about that. What they care about is the money. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. I don't know how much you guys could tell in the first 2 hours, but there was some loud hammering in the studio, and I'm in a very, very bad mood. Okay, so I have done some precautionary measures to fix that. Mm-hmm. One, during the break, I engulfed 2 cookies. Just, okay. So feel a little better about that. Number 2, I'm going to tell you a fun story that I think you're going to enjoy. Okay. Let's see if I could get back in a better mood. And that's part of the point of the third hour.
Yeah.
All right, guess what happened today?
Okay.
So I'm having a business meeting, and one of the guys that I'm having the meeting with is Jewish, okay? And I don't know what the other guy is, but that came up in the conversation, so that's why, all right? And as I'm telling him about how a lot of Jews go through Turkey, then come to the U.S. From in different countries in the Middle East, for some reason, I paused, and I was like, people of Jewish descent come through Turkey. I'm like, what did I just do? Why did I just say that?
That is so funny.
After I got on your case about it yesterday.
Right.
And the funny thing is, I think he watched that Mel Gibson thing we did yesterday.
Right.
So he must be thinking, what the fuck? What happened here? Right? Because I think one of the reasons that I got randomly self-conscious for a second, which I almost never do, right, is that we were talking about outliers, and but I didn't know he hadn't read the book. And in the book, there's a Malcolm Gladwell book. In the book, it talks about Jewish lawyers in New York and how they were discriminated against, et cetera, right? So at some point in the conversation, I had said something like, the Jewish lawyers, like the Jewish lawyers in New York. And then later I found out he hadn't read the book. I'm like, he's got to be thinking, who is this guy? Talking about, oh, yeah, those Jew lawyers in New York. Right? So then when I got that slight half-a-second moment of panic, I was like, people of Jewish descent. And then I laughed internally. Anyway, you see that? Another business meeting with Jewish Americans.
I know.
Conspiracy.
They're taking over the world. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. No, we're part of the conspiracy.
That's right,
Remember
that's
from the
right.
post game yesterday?
Right.
Hello, obviously.
But no, honestly, the worst feeling in the world is when you feel like you're about to offend someone when you don't really intend to offend them at all. And then you get that weird self-conscious feeling, and then you say things like of Jewish descent, or
which there's nothing terribly wrong about that.
Right.
It's just funny, it's a
just
little awkward.
it's overly polite.
Overly polite,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. All right. Anyway, so there we go. All right, I feel better already. So let's go forward. Let's do the sexters, but I should have used that anger against Peyton Manning because I want to talk about him in the Super Bowl in a second. But let's do that later. Let's start with your stories.
Yes. Okay. So Valentine's Day is coming up. A lot of restaurants are trying to think of, marketing strategies to get couples to go dine at their eatery, right? Well, it turns out Mildred's Temple Kitchen in Toronto has come up with a very interesting idea of allowing their customers to have sex in their bathrooms. In fact, they're encouraging it.
Rock and roll. I mean, you know me. I'm obviously going to be in favor of it. Why? Because do I like to have sex in bathrooms? Not sure I ever have. Must have at some point, I suppose. But no, but I like the free-spiritedness of it.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people are into public sex. Not me. I like a nice, comfortable bed. Okay? Nice, comfy and cozy. Then we were on the roof. I'd be a nervous wreck on the roof.
But that's supposed to be part of the excitement,
Yeah, not for me.
Maybe we're going to get caught.
Ooh, no, you know what I think? I think, oh shit, maybe we're going to get caught. I have no interest in that. So, but I do have an interest in encouraging people to have fun in their lives. And if this restaurant is doing that by, saying, come have sex in our bathrooms, and it's for Valentine's Day, so it makes some degree of sense.
Right.
So God bless. Go forward.
And they're calling it the Big Love Weekend because Valentine's Day falls on a Sunday this year.
Oh, that's going to ruin your Sunday.
No, it's not. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. You want to know something that I did?
Yeah.
I told Ladis, that he's not allowed to plan anything for Valentine's Day this year because he's always planned something. So I think it's my turn. So this year I told him, I'm going to plan everything. I'm going to make a big feast. We're going to pack it up. We're going to go take our dogs to the park. We're going to eat, play with our dogs, call it a day.
God bless you.
Isn't
man.
that fun?
God bless you. Absolutely. And now I'll tell you a funny story in return. So I talked to Wendy, and I'm like, hey, how come the guy always has to do something on Valentine's Day? I thought Valentine's Day was about mutual love, right? So I said, why don't we alternate years, right? Okay, and since I got you something last year, You get me something this year.
You told her that?
Yeah.
And what did she say?
She said, okay, I will, if you can remember what you got me last year. I was like, damn it. I still can't remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I must have gotten her something, but I don't remember what. So she's like, I guess it must be your year. I'll take it next year. She's a clever one. What am I going to do with her? Okay, to wrap up that story, speaking of wrapping up, people are saying, well, it's going to be unsanitary, People,
Yeah.
there are certain things going on in sex, you know what I'm saying?
Bodily fluids.
Bodily fluids.
On the walls, on the floor.
Right. The lady who runs the restaurant's like, no, don't worry. We fired additional staff for that weekend to come in with.
I have the exact quote. I thought it was a funny quote. She says that customers must bring their own condoms, okay, and they're hiring a maid to tidy up the washrooms this weekend. She'll be there with her feather duster and cleaning supplies.
Yeah, I don't think the feather duster's going to help. I think that's going to be done after the first cleaning episode. Look, they should put condoms in there. Why not?
Yeah, I don't understand why they're not putting condoms in there. They're so cheap, and I think it's a better way to go.
And it's part of the, the theme.
Right.
It makes a lot of sense. My question is, I wonder how many people will take that up,
I think a lot of people will take it up.
Oh,
I
you
think
think
a lot
so?
of people are going to do it even if the restaurant wasn't featuring this little additional prize for eating at the restaurant.
I was in a restaurant, I think it was in Austin, and I told you this story before, and I went in, and they said dedicated to Dennis Quaid and his wife, because apparently one time they were having sex in the bathroom, and they forgot to lock the door. Somebody opened up, and there's Dennis Quaid going to work. But at least it was his wife. God bless. Makes sense.
By the way, I have one really quick funny story. All right, so my friends and I go shopping Black Friday, having a good time, right? And one of my friends goes into a dressing room and she's changing. And all of a sudden we hear her go, ew, how nasty, right? And then she comes out and she's just like, oh, I need a tissue. She had something on her hands. And she's like, I think someone blew their nose in the dressing room. And
no.
I actually,
oh, no.
And it was funny because the one person who was working just kind of like stayed quiet and like, pretended as if she didn't hear anything, right? And then later on, we got out of the store. I'm like, it's not snot. It's definitely not snot. And then she totally freaked out. She's like, what if I have an STD?
I don't think that's how the STTs work.
Right.
I have an equally disgusting story where it was snot. It's a guy in Miami, sales guy, and I thought a bird shit on his shirt because it was like, and I was like, Joel, I think a bird, da-da-da. And he's like, oh, no, okay. And I was like, oh, shit, it's a snot. But it was like,
that's so embarrassing.
and it was like green and black. And I was like, oh, Jesus, man. Those guys are a mess. Anyway, all right, what's next?
All right, 21-year-old Nick Snyder is a very famous model.
I love this story.
Okay. He has modeled for Prada and Yves Saint Laurent and all of these fancy schmancy brands. Well, it turns out he got arrested in Arkansas. He got arrested for public drunkenness and disorderly conduct. And when he was in the back of a patrol car, he apparently told the police officer that he will suck his dick and balls if he lets him go.
Well, that's very specific. And I like how he's like, no, I'll throw in the balls for free. Okay. Apparently, he goes to the next officer.
As soon as he gets to the police station, the person who was about to throw him into the jail cell, he looks at him and says, no, I'll suck your balls too. Like, just let me go, please.
I mean, he was a man on a mission. He doesn't look like quite the model in that picture as he does in the first picture.
Not at all.
But you haven't even gotten to my favorite part of the story, where he told the cop, hey, you don't understand. I'm a very famous model.
Why would a cop care?
Yeah.
First of all?
Are you? You're a very famous model. Well, okay, then I'm going to have to let you go.
And you'll suck my dick and balls? Okay.
And shockingly enough, the cops were not persuaded by either one of those arguments. And now he's facing further charges for trying to influence officer of the peace.
Right.
Okay.
But he kind of is a famous model.
I know. The funny thing is, you would think like, oh, what a load of crap, right?
Right.
But it turns out he's one of the 5 most famous male models.
Right. Forbes magazine named him 2008's world's 5th most successful male model.
Yeah.
He must be very proud.
And by the way, getting arrested for being drunk and disorderly is such not a big deal.
Right.
No one cares about it. If you're going to get arrested for anything, it should be for being drunk and disorderly, okay? What sucks is getting arrested for being drunk and disorderly, then offering to blow the cops. So quit while you're ahead or a little behind, if you know what I mean. And I talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is never the first mistake, usually.
Right.
It's when you compound that mistake. And even the most famous models in the world apparently make that mistake. Right. All right. What's next?
All right. Benjamin Grundy is a gay, mentally challenged, biracial male cheerleader. And he feels that he is facing discrimination in his high school. Okay, we have a video of this. And it's a sad story because there's so many things that high schoolers would pick on him for, right? And it's not his fault.
Yeah, look, we're going to do this story, and then, there might be controversy when we come back. Let's watch.
There are accusations of discrimination in a small eastern Washington town centering around a male cheerleader. Our McKay Allen is here with our story. McKay?
Yeah, Robin. Benjamin Grundy is his name. His mom says the school is embarrassed by her son, and they're discriminating against him. The school insists they are not, and they are allowing him to be a cheerleader.
But I think the combination of a biracial, mentally challenged gay male was too much for them.
Suzanne Grundy's son Benjamin is a cheerleader at Garpal High School in Palouse, Washington. And she says he's being discriminated against.
Trying to, hush it up and brush it under the carpet like it didn't exist.
At the beginning of this current season, I was told that I would be able to participate in everything that the other cheerleaders would do, which included the dance routines.
But shortly, according to the Grundys, that began to change.
Then his teammates and his coach started pressing him to be the mascot. He didn't want to be the mascot. He wants to be a cheerleader.
Then the Grundys say they began leaving him out of cheerleading dance routines, forbidding Ben from moving his legs or shaking his hips. He was allowed only to move his arms.
I was just reduced to standing there and just moving my arms. And I didn't lift my legs. I didn't move from the place I was at. I just stood there.
And at first they say he wasn't given pom-poms or a uniform beyond just a shirt.
He was just crushed.
So contending the school was discriminating against Benjamin, the Grundys started complaining. They sent letters to everyone from Kathy McMorris Rogers to the ACLU.
Up here, men are men and do men things, and girls are girls and do girls things.
First of all, I just have to say that we really honor the rights of students, and so I can't talk about specifics.
District Superintendent and School Principal Beverly Fox wouldn't discuss Benjamin Grundy specifically, but says her school doesn't discriminate.
Our policy is that that every student has the rights that everybody has, and there is not discrimination.
Since our interview and since Suzanne sent those letters, Benjamin got his pom-poms and a more official uniform.
I hope that if the school ever actually does get another male cheerleader, that the same thing won't happen to them.
Look, this is a sad story in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know why they don't have tryouts, okay? Look, so can girls play football? Sure, you put on the pads, but then you can get hit, okay? And, I played football in high school, and, you don't want to discriminate or whatever, but you got to make the cut, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the same is true of cheerleaders. Can you do the cheerleading? And are you good at it? And if you aren't, then you shouldn't be a cheerleader. And if you are, then you should be, right? Now, if he did make the cut and then they discriminate against him, right, then the school's obviously in the wrong, right? But, look, you know me, I got no problems with the fact that he's gay or wants to be a cheerleader, biracial. I don't even know how that comes into play, right? Mm-hmm. They say he's developmentally challenged. He sounded more eloquent than Sarah Palin.
Right.
Okay? So I don't see how that comes into play. I'm tired. I'm tired of people suing each other. Mm-hmm. She's suing everybody, Look, I love your son. We live in a free country. I want him to do the best he can and have all the opportunities, right? But if he's, if he's not a good cheerleader, what? Just come on, man. Balance of reason. Not everything is like discrimination. Not everything is lawsuits.
I know, Cenk, but look, they're allowing him to be on the team, right? And they're telling him specifically, you can only move your arms. You're not allowed to gyrate your hips.
That's dumb. I agree with you. And then look, I'm sure that within the full context of that story, they have a whole case to make, et cetera, right? And if I was a school, I would really listen to that. And I wouldn't put dumb rules like you're not allowed to gyrate your hips. What does that mean? That doesn't make any sense, right? And could the school be discriminatory in this case in subtle ways? Yes, of course it could be. I hate the lawsuits. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she feels like there's nothing else she can do, but the other thing is telling your son, hey, I love you, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities in life to do some great things. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But maybe we'll let this one go.
I don't know. I think that in this case, absolutely they discriminated against him. Because even if they had those tryouts, right, which I think in this case they didn't, because if they had the tryouts, there's no way they would have let him in. They would probably say, oh, he doesn't know how to dance or something, right? So the fact that they had him on and they're saying, okay, you're not going to be in all of the cheerleading routines. Okay, and then the ones that you are in, you're going to stand in the back and you're allowed to move your arms, but that's it. You're not allowed to do anything else. Why not? He's not able to show his full potential as a cheerleader, right? Because if you can't gyrate your hips and you can't move your legs and you can only stand in the back and move your arms, there's no way to judge whether or not he can...
No one wins here. I agree with you. I mean, those are dumb rules, right? But at the same time, how about the other girls who are cheerleaders? I mean, are they having a fun cheerleading experience with this guy who's sitting there awkward and, moving his arms around? Maybe that's not fair. Maybe they should be more open-minded, and et cetera, et cetera. And look, I'm not saying exactly which way I'd go if I was the school. Here's what I think I wouldn't do if I was the parents. I don't think I'd sue everybody.
Yeah, the suing doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that's what gets under my skin.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right. I don't know. That's controversy. Enjoy. All right. Let's do at least two more here. What do you got?
All right. A Bentley University student was stabbed by two women who offered sexual favors. Okay. Turns out that he offered $50 to one of the women for oral sex. He claims that she got upset and then stabbed him, right? But then the police report claims that it's a 48-year-old man who had just won $300, right? The women had called him and offered, one of them would basically give him oral sex for $200, or both of them would give him oral sex for $300. So he agreed to both of them, allegedly agreed to both of them. They showed up, stabbed him, and took the $300.
All right, we got a news story on this. I want to do the news story because I love the ending of it. So the rest of it is, okay, hooker shows up, as she explained, and things go wrong, right? But the reaction of the college community, that's what I'm interested in. Let's watch.
And there's concern tonight on a local college campus. Someone attacked a student early this morning inside his dorm room. Police are saying two women stabbed the student, but also say this is not a random crime. The Night Team's Amanda Grace is in Waltham with reaction.
Well, that Bentley University student is now out of the hospital, but tonight the two women who are accused of putting him there are still behind bars. 19-year-old Sarah Monta of Danvers, followed by 22-year-old Brianne Fraser of Rhode Island, both ducking out of view and later hiding their faces in court. The young women are charged with stabbing a Bentley University student in his dorm room in what appears to be a prostitution deal gone wrong.
Very surprised, very surprised. This is a very good school, good reputation, good student.
The Waltham campus shocked by what happened overnight at Fenway Hall. Police say student Rafael Pena let the two non-students into the dorm around 3 a.m. with condoms and prescription pills in their purse. One woman told officers Pena offered her $50 to perform a sexual act. She refused, and police say dorm mates heard a loud fight in the living room. Officers found Pena stabbed once in the chest, and he told them the women stole his $300.
That's hard to believe. Usually I would think it would go the other way around. Like, just young teenage boys, What can you do about it?
Officers arrested Monta and Fraser as they ran to their car. Turns out both were out on bail on separate charges out of Boston. The school, meanwhile, says there's no threat to the Bentley community, but students on this suburban campus are shaken.
Scary. I hope that doesn't happen again.
It used to be a really safe campus, and now we're a little scared, but we'll get over it.
Fraser and Monta both pleaded not guilty to assault and battery with a deadly weapon and robbery. They are both being held until their dangerousness hearing next Wednesday. We're live in Waltham. Amanda Gray, 7 News 19.
A scare outside a
All right. I don't know. I was amused by I'm shaken by this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it's going to affect you unless you call those same hookers. Okay? I don't think there's a spree of hookers that are running into Bentley campus with knives going, come on! Right? They got called over there. Shaken. People are so, I don't know, man. People are fragile. But looking at it, the second student there, the female, she was like, I guess I'm a little scared, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can live with that. Okay. And her, I don't see the hookers stabbing you at all. So I think you're a little safer. So that's why I was amused by the story. I want to do the panda story, Jesus. Okay, now we have a panda in Washington.
Yes, this panda is at the National Zoo. Panda Taishan.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and there was a long-held agreement that the panda would one day be returned to China, and that's finally going to happen, right?
Okay.
Makes sense.
It does make sense. But people are quite broken up about it, and they say they've grown quite attached to this particular panda. We have a little video here to show you from the Washington Post.
Hey folks, the panda out. Now you have to exit that way, please.
I've come in the past 4 years about well over 200 times in the past 4 years.
Jeez.
Right now I've been going through all my old pictures, posting old pictures, just looking back on the time we've had with him.
About 3.5, 4 years ago, I moved about a 10-minute walk from the back of the zoo, so I've actually come as often as I can.
On a good day, 5 or 6 hours I can spend.
We all work, so we spent weekends here, all weekends, maybe 8 hours a day for each weekend. Sometimes during the week, I know sometimes I used to come on my lunch hour.
No words can describe how special he's been, and not just to me, but to many hearts. It's the connection with the way his eyes, you look at his eyes and you see like all this possibility.
Taishan came into my life when my father was dying. And my father was my whole life. We were very close. And I would have been completely lost without him. And he brought me here and helped me get through the real hard times. He comes down and he looks at you with those big eyes, and it's almost like he looks very deeply into your soul.
You can sit there an unlimited amount of time just watching his eyes.
Wrong.
And you can see expression, you can see the sparkle in his eyes. That's what we're going to miss about him.
He has like extra large, sparkly eyes. They seem to really draw you in. And I've taken, thousands of photographs of him, and they really do. It comes through even through a camera lens or a video lens.
If you're having a bad day or things are not looking good in your life or politics or whatever, you look at Ty and you look into those eyes, and Ty sparkles with joy. He brings out that inner essence in you that you're sometimes not aware of, the joy that exists within you. He
I know much.
knows how to.
We're going to come back to the end of this video in a second, okay? But you're sitting there looking at a panda for 8 hours? Is it me, or is that crazy?
I think that's insane.
Okay. I mean, what do we... 8 hours. And it's his eyes. They move my soul. I'll tell you what, man. I think that people are looking for innocence, And you look at that and... It reminds me of Michael Jackson in some crazy, crazy way. Okay?
Right.
Because they want to find something in the world that is not corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And that panda, all that panda's doing is, just sitting there. Okay? But they're putting all of their thoughts into the panda.
Yeah.
Like if you ask the panda, hey, are you trying to reach their souls? He's like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? I'm just chewing on this bamboo.
I know. Look, they want to humanize this animal. right? And this is one of the reasons why gorillas attack people. This is one of the reasons why animals that are not meant to be domestic animals end up killing people. It's because they take these animals and they want to humanize it and they want to build some sort of relationship with it as if it's a human being, and it doesn't make any sense. I look into this panda's eyes and I can see his soul. I can see the future. There's so many possibilities. Like, no, it's a panda, and you're spending 8 hours of your life looking at it. Go do something else. Go do something that's meaningful in life.
If we keep doing this story, I'm going to say really mean things. Okay, let's watch the end of it, okay? Now they're crying. You see the guy? He's not going to get to spend 6 hours a day anymore looking at the panda. No, they're devastated.
No, I know.
I don't want to say goodbye. I just want to say farewell. And no matter where you are and what you're doing, that because of the bond we formed with you, that you'll always be in our hearts. And so we'll never be without you, Tyshawn. So we love you. You're our prince.
You know, I'll miss you.
One more cry.
Oh my God.
She can't keep it together. Okay, I can't take it anymore.
Look. I would understand if it's, some of the zookeepers that are crying, people that are actually taking care of this panda and have built some sort of relationship with it, right? These are just spectators. These are just people who go to the zoo and they look at this panda. And let me just tell you something. Ladise gets mad at me because every time we go to the zoo, which is like once every 3 years or something, right? I just want to look at the animal and I want to move on. I don't want to see it eating. I don't want to take pictures of it.
You don't want to look into its soul with its glittery eyes?
I don't.
For 8 hours on end?
Like, I don't care. I just want to, look, it's an elephant. It's nice. Okay, let's move on. Let's go look at the monkey exhibit, you know?
I can't think of too many things in my life that I would rather less do. You know what I'm saying? That's a very poorly way of saying it. Like, sit there for 8 hours looking at a panda. I might lose my mind. I mean, I'd be like, anything else but this. Can I please stop looking at this fucking panda, right? Meanwhile, the guy went 200 fucking times.
I know.
Dude, get a life. Look, I don't want to say bad things, but I love you, and everybody's got emotional needs, and they've put all these needs into this panda, and they say it's a treasured, innocent one, and like Michael Jackson, and it's the only thing that's pure in the world, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, dude, I know, but go form a human relationship. Stare into a girl's eyes or a guy's eyes. I don't care. Your parents' eyes, anybody's eyes but the panda's eyes. The panda's not staring back. He's thinking, fucking delicious this bamboo is. He's not. His soul is not connected to yours. He doesn't give a fuck.
The best part of that video is when they took a tight shot of the guy crying, when he was like, and he had to move his face away.
Look, I know I'm being a dick, and these people are connected with the pandas emotionally for one reason or another, with stuff that's going on in their lives, and he's leaving, and I get that they're torn up about that, right? It's just bounds of reason. That's all I'm saying. Bounds of reason. Go grab a cup of coffee with another human being, okay? All right, now, finally on Peyton Manning, before we do our movie reviews. All right, look, let's be clear. I hate Peyton Manning. I've always hated Peyton Manning. My initial reason for that is that, and this is going to sound unjustifiable and crazy to a lot of you, but as an athlete, I don't respect him. I know. Okay, just hold on. Hear me out, okay? He's choked in every big game in his career. And so he's a great player, but that's what makes it even more disappointing. Choked in every major game that Tennessee had. Okay, never won any of the bowls. And then went to Indianapolis, choked against the Steelers, choked against the Patriots, choked against everybody. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, how about that time he won the Super Bowl? And he did, okay? And there he delivered in the biggest way, not against the Bears, who were easy, but against the Patriots. That comeback was unbelievable. So do I give that to him? Of course! I'm not immune to facts, right? And my theory on that is that they were so far behind that the pressure got lifted. I thought, well, we lost the game anyway. Now, and without that added pressure, then he was able to perform. But look, what's great about sports is that Peyton Manning gets to prove me totally wrong on Sunday. Because I will say this. If he comes out there and just crushes the Saints, which is entirely possible, right, then I'm wrong. And Peyton Manning, yeah, maybe he had some troubles in the beginning of his career. But look, it takes everybody a little while to get to wherever they're going to get to. He wins 2 Super Bowls, beats a lot of great competition this year, had that great comeback against the Patriots. Then he's great. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I'm rooting against him, okay? At first, it was the athlete thing, and that bothered me. I don't know why, but it did. And then I found out that he did that incident with the trainer, the girl, and he apparently, lowered his genitals on top of her. And okay, it was a prank. He was in college. You take his word, her word. He said, she said. All right, I was fine, right? It happens. It's terrible, but it happens. But then what really put it over the top for me is, then he went on to smear her. And then he wrote a book many, many years later and smeared her again. And he got her fired. And it's from the reading of the story, and I could be wrong, okay, and you take it for what it's worth, it seemed to me that she was right, okay? And so then I disliked the guy from then on completely. And then I find out he's a Republican, but it's not, that's a very small part of it. The owner of the Chargers are the biggest Republicans, and I love the Chargers. But so I don't like the guy. So I hope the Saints crush him, and I hope I can come back and go, yeah, you know what? Turns out Peyton Manning was a choker. But if I'm wrong, what's going to be great for the Colts fans and the Manning fans is they're going to get to come and rub it in my face, which is, like I said, entirely possible. I'm going to put one more note on this. The Saints have been talking dirty, okay? And they're saying about, they like to hit the quarterback and they're going to go after Manning. If they hit him while the game is going on in the field of play, that's part of football, and that's great, no problem. If they hit him after the whistle and they get dirty, despite how much I hate Manning, I will switch over to rooting for the Colts. Because you can't do that, man. If they hit him after the whistle, man, and they knock him out of the game, I will be livid. Because that destroys the whole point of the game. So, am I not merciful? But I hope I'm not put in that position. I'm going to root like hell for the Saints. And we'll see what happens. That's the beauty of football. Young Turks.